Welcome back to part 2 of the conspiracy theory iceberg by Wendigoon. Shout out to Wendigoon. Yeah, cool dude. Okay, but I wanted to give some shout outs to some comments. It was funny. Do you guys remember when we watched the first episode of this, or like the second one where they talked about clown appearances? I wanted to give a shout out to Clown on the Run, a comment I seen on the last part of this, and it just made me think about that. But they were like, have you seen the realistic robot? And the first reaction they had to it was they ran around the house showing everyone yelling Detroit become human like a madman. And yeah, I felt that energy. But as anyways, if there's anything you want me to react to outside of this, I've seen reaction requests from like some of his other stuff, not just the conspiracy theory iceberg. But I definitely want to get through all of this and get to the crazier tiers that you guys are telling me about. But other than that, welcome back. Sending out a lot of love. As always, links down below if you need to find me on any socials. And subscribe if you want to be a founder, because we finally got a name. Anyways, all right, let's hop into this. Got all prepared. We left off on Archons.
To just the idea that it's a secret military or Freemason base that is kept quiet from the public. Archons relate back to Gnosticism, which I mentioned earlier. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Essentially,
oh, that's actually funny, because I said in my last video, it's Gnosticism, if y'all remember that. He just said it right there. He hopes he's pronouncing it right. I don't know. It's the same thing.
God created our world. The Archons are his helpers or tormentors. And it goes to the idea that mischievous or evil things that happen in the real world are the deliberate actions of these tiny demons.
Of Archons, yeah.
I say tiny demons. Essentially, it's just demons working for a different entity than the devil. So you could be safe to say these are the demons of Gnosticism. Spirit science is
there. Since you guys like my takes, if you want me to tell, if I'm gonna shed some more light on Archons, yeah. So basically, the basis of what he just explained there, and to give more detail, is like how he said they're working for a different entity than the devil. It's basically like they're working for what people would think is God. So it's like, you know, when a baby is born and everyone is like, oh, it's so cute, and oh, cute baby, and trying to pinch its cheeks. That is an Archon, because it's like not a good and evil entity. It's an entity that just feeds off of emotion. So that's pretty much what it is. It's like intense emotion. So yeah, Archons feast on
exactly what it says. The idea that scientific concepts can be related to spiritualism and things like auras and chakras and things such as, and that through application of spirit science you can unlock or understand your inner self. The plane of jars is interesting. In Laos there are these fields that are all grouped together that hold anywhere between 1 to 400 of these giant 9-foot wide stone jars. They've all been carved out from stone, most of them have lids with them, and they're just sitting in these fields and no one knows where they came from. The locals in the area talk of legends and say that giants used to roam this land. And there's again giants being mentioned from the past years. And that what they would do is they would carve out these stones and set them in these fields, and that's where they'd keep their alcohol and honey and things such as. And each field was a different keeping place for a different material. Sadly, not a lot of research or insight can be done to this place, because during Vietnam, the United States dropped more explosives on specifically the field of jars than the entirety of World War II. And that combined with all of the undetonated explosives there mean research is very, very scant and dangerous to do. So I guess we may not know more about this, but I like the Giants idea. It's cool. Beacon of Hate was discovered.
And like giving a shout out to John Levy again. You guys should definitely go look at his videos on different races that used to exist on Earth, because he uses kind of like images and stuff like that in it.
On June 2nd of 2000, in which a man in the western United States began picking up on this radio transmission that was being broadcast locally, and after enhancing it, he found a looping broadcast in which someone was screaming over and over about America selling themselves to camels, and pornography and religion should die, and the end times is coming with a chariot, and other mixes of like Revelations type speak, and general disdain for the United States, so on and so forth. This was looping for, as far as he could tell, about 8 months before it disappeared. To this day, the FCC has better things to do. There have been no information found on it. No one knows who caused it or what happened. and it simply remains a mystery. Feral children is a real-world phenomenon which is quite sad, in which kids who either ran away or were abducted at a young age and lived away from human contact simply became feral. This is observed a lot whenever researchers go to lesser populated areas such as forest and jungles, in which children have been allowed to get away from their families and been raised in the wilderness. Normally the child is very either scared of human interaction or violent around humans and resolves to things such as running on all fours, but it can also result in some very interesting side effects such as different form bone structure and nasal pathways that are simply just, evidence of adaptation in humans.
Oh, adaptation to their environment. Okay. Feral children was making me think about Fallout. And I was thinking about ghouls. I'm fucked up.
It's interesting, however,
I'm messed up.
that when taking away from other human contact in these sort of case studies, that we become animalistic. Antinatalism is a more recent ideology. Natalism is the idea that having children is good and, having a baby is good. Whereas antinatalism is the opposite of that and says that having a child is morally bad. The idea with this theory being that if the higher-ups or Illuminati or whatever have you is trying to dissolve the family unit, then this idea of antinatalism will be put out more and more across the human populace until eventually families or having children or things such as is seen as a natural bad. Charles Fort is someone that I wish that I knew about before getting into this because he seems like an interesting individual. He wrote several fiction books which had to do with different occurring phenomena such as teleportation, human combustion, ball lightning, etc. What's more interesting is ideas such as teleportation and ball lightning he's actually credited with inventing. What goes furthermore is in that most interviews where he talked about these phenomena, he simply said that in studying real-world phenomena, they are things that he observed. The idea with this being that because of Charles Fort's writings, we have highlights to some things that really do happen, such as human combustion, teleportation randomly, ball lightning, so on and so forth. To the point that a term given to real-world supernatural events is Fortean, such as giant unexplainable monsters can be called Lovecraftian. Also, everything else I found on Charles Fort generally relates back to the occult, with several sort of scientific occult circles claiming him as one of their founders. The Road to Rudo was a comic book put out by the federal government for school children in the 1980s. The point of this book was to teach children concepts such as scarcity and market value and things such as. However, a man by the name of Bix Weir later came out with his own theory regarding the comic. His idea is that large governments are getting tired of banking circles owning the world through their amounts of money they loan out and things such as, and it all has to get back to Wall Street and national banking circles and blah, blah, blah. But his idea is the comic is showing a federal idea to get back to a new gold standard, or the idea that after a great reset, so to speak, which is being talked about a lot now in the news, that we could reverse our current banking circle idea and return to a second gold standard, as he calls it. Mereological nihilism is another one of those thought concepts. It's the idea that there are no things that are composed of other things. They are simply the smaller things made into bigger things. What I mean by that is there is no such thing as a chair. There are pieces of wood in straight lines that are pointed together in chair fashion. While this whole thing seems kind of pointless in that regard, as you apply that more and more to people and biology and things such as, it becomes more of an idea of this sort of nihilism when it comes to science and humanity. The Cagots were interesting considering I had literally never heard about this until starting review for this. The Cagots were a race of people in 16th and 17th century France who were horribly discriminated against. And by horribly, I mean that whenever entering the town, they had to ring a bell like a leper to let other people know they're around. Not only that, but they had to walk with shoes on at all times or be arrested, so that way their skin didn't touch the ground that other barefoot people had to walk on.
That's foul. That's foul. What the heck? Also, I haven't been really saying anything much for some of these other ones because they're kind of just interesting. I know a lot about Charles Fort, but I didn't know that part at the end. A founder of the occult. Funny.
They were not allowed to farm. One Cagot who tried to, on his own land, had stakes run through his feet. and they had to use a specific font when writing, that way people would know a Cagot wrote it. If they didn't, as happened to one man, he had his hand cut off and pinned to the church door. And there were several rumors that spread up about them, like because they wore shoes all the time, people said that they had webbed feet, or because they only wrote in one font, children would say that that's because they have the devil's handwriting. What's really weird is no one knows where they came from. They seemingly look like any other French person. The ideas were they came from a defeated army during the Goth period way back, but that can't be confirmed. Ideas are that they are people from north of the English Channel who came south and were simply shamed against, but that can't be confirmed. So seemingly this race just pops up in France, is horribly hated, and then disappears. It wasn't until the French Revolution, in which several Cagots went to record offices and burned any information that they were Cagots, and simply assimilated back into French society. Deep Sea Lab text relates to real experiments that happened called Sealab, which were carried out by the United States Navy. The idea was to place these science capsules in different spots around the ocean for researchers to live in and do research from. The first two went off without a hitch. However, the third one, during its setup, someone went down to fix a carbon monoxide poisoning problem and died in the process, so the Navy shut the entire thing down. The theory is that these experiments are still being carried out in secret for whatever reason, and the idea that it was kept out of public eye, not because someone died, but because they wanted to start research on something the public shouldn't be aware of. However, I think the biggest travesty that come from that is that the people who went down into these spaces were called aquanauts, and we need to bring that back. Hitler escaped inside the Earth.
Aquanauts.
Back to what I've talked
See, that's what I'm talking about. I said, why space? The ocean. Aquanauts. There we go.
About in previous tiers known as Agartha. The idea being that the Nazis at the space 221 were supposedly looking for Agartha, which, keep in mind, would be the entire Earth's inside, found it, made tunnels that led up to Berlin in Germany, and whenever Germany began losing the war, Hitler simply went underground into this underworld. So if you were to get to the secret plane of Agartha, it would theoretically be Nazis and giants. So do with that information what you will. Illuminati blood bank.
What? Agartha's full of Nazis and giants? Oh, man. That actually connects to something that ties back to the first episode when they were talking about Admiral Byrd, because that's kind of what I heard when I first learned about Admiral Byrd. Is he tried to go to Antarctica, and what he was talking about from the theory of why Admiral Byrd turned around, like he's seen Agartha and they told him basically, like, what was the story? Like, he came back, he was jailed, and then they told him not to speak about what he's seen in Antarctica. Then coming back to like my whole theory of it, or what I've researched about it, was he got there and the Germans were already there. So what he just said about how they found Agartha, that kind of lines up with what I heard, because Admiral Byrd and them arrived and they got turned around. And if you think about this is just like me kind of just stringing things together. If this would be like this, is if it's a new world order, he went there, but there was supposed to be tension between two sides. So how did they get turned around without like a whole conflict happening in Antarctica? So that's what I also heard, was they found whatever first in Antarctica, and then we came after and he got turned around. So yeah, that's actually crazy with that Hitler theory, because that would line up with what I researched when I first found it. But I don't know, that's insane.
It says exactly what it says. There are real-world programs where the rich can buy the blood of the young in order to get transfusions for it, to ideally make them younger. And there are things like blood facials that people do, and we are living in a dystopia. However, Illuminati Blood Banks just says that this secret Illuminati organization has near infinite supplies for their members, so that they can always harvest the blood of the young to stay fit. Which I hate to admit is one of the least outlandish on this entire list.
Wait. I think that's referring to, he has it listed as Illuminati blood banks. And I don't know if I say the word, if my video will get shadow banned. I don't think so, right? Because let me look it up before I actually say it in the video. All right, we're gonna. Oh man, should I show this? Okay, well, it's on Wikipedia, and I'm not saying anything about it, but I will just throw out the word because he said Illuminati blood banks. So I will just say, is this referring to adrenochrome? Because if you type in adrenochrome, the first search result I got, don't kill me, I'm just the messenger. The dark virality of Hollywood blood harvesting conspiracy. So, yeah, I think it's referring to adrenochrome, but I'm not sure.
Geometry is that the idea that there are certain shapes and patterns in geometry that relate to the construction of the real world. So much so that God himself would be the geometric shape of life itself. And it gets into this whole idea that certain shapes can be used to summon different things, and so on and so forth. The Black Pope prophecy comes from a supposed prediction that popped up in the 1500s, specifically 1590, that was 112 phrases to describe every pope in existence. Not only everyone that had came before, that everyone that was coming afterwards. Whoever made this is often switched around with people saying it being different saints or bishops in the church. This eventually leads to a final pope, which it says will bring the fall of Rome. However, this one, from everything I found, is pretty fake. Like, it had all of them right up until 1590 when it was written, and then after that, none of them made any sense applied to different popes, so whatever. DMT beans is the fact that while on DMT, several different individuals have these shared hallucinations of something called clockwork elves, which appear as these tall, silvery, slender creatures that watch over them while they're high. Not only that, but there are several shared hallucinations involving syntax and life and blah blah blah. Don't do drugs. The Missing Children Forest refers to a 700,000 acre forest in LA County, Los Angeles, in which children have gone missing with no evidence found afterwards. Originally, there was about 8 kids that went missing and was later pinned on a serial killer in the area, but since then he's been in jail and people have still gone missing in this forest, to the point that dozens of kids simply walk into the woods and never return. This can lead to tons of speculation.
Slenderman. Slenderman? Slenderman.
But it all traces back to the idea of what in these woods is drawing kids in and what's making them not be found. Solipsism is the concept that nothing outside of your own mind can be known. For example, we could all be in the Matrix right now and everything we see be fake. We could be in alternate realities and everything that we see is an illusion, blah, blah, blah. But the only thing you can know for sure is your mind.
Yep.
The fact that you are having thoughts right now and that you created these thoughts is the only thing that can be known for sure. And it is the base theory for the famous phrase, I think, therefore I am. Thule is...
I mean, my man just spit. I didn't know it was called solipsism. I've heard many different names. But my man just spit. Hey, what can I say? I don't even think you need to give... My reaction said enough. I like that. I mess with that. What do y'all think down below?
A concept that has been traced back to the early Greeks, in the idea that on all their maps they had this region located far to the north known as Thule, in which they said that's where sea monsters came from, that's where these giants came from, etc., etc. There's different theories about, well, maybe it was Ireland or maybe it was Norway and whatever have you. But what's interesting is it's never been exactly laid down. And while all of the Greeks had sort of this unified idea of what Thule was and what was there, we can't find anything that exactly matches it in our modern text. So maybe it's something that sank below ground in a plate shift, or maybe it's something that never existed. Who knows? Die Glocke is German for the bell and refers to secret Nazi superweapon research that occurred in World War II. Theories for this include things such as the Wunderwaffe or the Schönegewehr, which is German for wonder weapon or sun rifle. The idea is...
And let me guess, that's how it echoed into gaming. Because in Black Ops 2 or whatever, Black Ops Zombies, the Wunderwaffe was the gun you could get. And it was a wonder weapon, like the ray gun. No way, I just connect. That's just crazy to me. So that gun was based on a real thing? That's insane. Hold on.
That occurred in World War II. Theories for this include things such as the Wunderwaffe or
Yeah.
the Schurnegewehr, which is German for wonder weapon or sun rifle. The ideas for this being that the Germans were looking ways to concentrate radiation into these centralized waves as a form of attack, or electricity itself in these sort of like long-range tasers. Not only that, but there were records of them looking into teleportation and how to move people instantly over large distances. They were looking for these giant air plug cannons that would fire a piece of air large enough to take out planes.
The thunder gun. What? That's where Activision and them get the inspiration from? The thunder gun? Yo, that's literally the thunder gun. So that's where the inspiration for all this came from? And even the teleportation stuff in Call of Duty. Look it, you can tell. If this is like the drawing of what kind of like the research that he's showing in the video, you can see the inspiration they drawn from it. That's insane. That's crazy. That's really cool.
And it goes on, but this whole Die Glocke just relates to the idea that these Germans had working models for these things, and that the reason they've been kept so secretive is because after the Allies won the war, they wanted to use that research themselves. And that's it for part 1 of Tier 3. I will try to get the second part of Tier 3 out as soon as possible. But once again, just thank you guys for watching. It really does mean the most. Special thank you to all of my subscribers, and especially all of my patrons. A very special thank you to my top tier patrons. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Peth. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Publius. And thank you, Saucy. Link.
That's so crazy. Wow. Okay, that ended on a good one. Oh man, watching these always makes me want to hop into the next episode like right away. Holy moly. But this end one right here is crazy. Because you can find some wild, like, I guess you would call them fan theories. I don't really know how to explain it, but you can find like the YouTubers who sit and break down all the Easter eggs in Call of Duty, and someone talked about how Shangri-La had to do with Agartha. I'm pretty sure Agartha is in one of the Call of Duty maps. Agartha. Let me see. Call of Duty. Black Ops 3. Agartha. Yeah, there's something with Agartha in Call of Duty. But it's like honestly funny how someone who, like, okay, if you don't know anything about like the conspiracies or all these types of theories, you play the game and you're kind of just like, whoa, this cool map Agartha and this like wonder weapons and all that, and it literally comes from real life speculation and stuff. Well, I mean, this right here sounds like it's backed based on what he found. That's crazy to me. So my theory was right. Games like Watch Dogs and what else? I guess you could say Assassin's Creed, but I wouldn't know how to really tie it in besides the Animus and like why they made a movie about it also. But it's like all these games are really like, what was it? Was it Dishonored? No, not Dishonored. The Division. The Division. Tom Clancy's The Division. I heard that Tom Clancy, for one of the games that he made, like the government they tried to sue him or something for the information that was in the game, and that just made me tie this all together. So they're putting information in these games that are really like almost, I don't know how to explain it, not like classified, but like could really get them fucking in trouble. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, now you, if you didn't know that about COD, now you can go back and look at COD and realize that they were putting these little theories in there. Like it wasn't just like a thought up idea. That's crazy. Well, all right. Much love and moonlight, and I will see you on the next part. I really want to record it right away, but yeah, I'll hold back. See y'all. Let me know what y'all think down below about some of these. Some of these I really just didn't know what to say, like the Road to Ruta. The Meteorological Nihilism was pretty cool. Beacon of Hate was kind of lame. Yeah. Yep. All right. I'm out of here. Peace.